Movies have such a huge influence in people's mind. Whether you're a movie buff or not, it does influence you.
Yeah.
So I'm sure movie makers have also got influenced by some invisible selling strategies that they may not be aware of, or they may be. Do you have any example of a great movie that you can think of that has used invisible selling strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. The smartest directors, the smartest actors, they understand plenty of strategies about invisible selling.
Okay.
But a movie based on invisible selling in a very, very big way was Inception by Christopher Nolan. And just to show you how eerily similar the concepts in Inception were to invisible selling, I want to quote a dialogue from there. What is the most resilient parasite in the world? Bacteria, a virus, an intestinal worm, an idea that's fully formed, fully understood, that sticks right in there somewhere. So that was used by a character called Cobb in the movie called Inception, and that is exactly what invisible selling is all about. Visible selling is when you're saying, hey, buy this product, it's great, it's for you. You're not really transferring the ownership of the concept of buying the product or a desire for that product onto the other person. In invisible selling, you're planting the idea of buying the product or service into that person's head, where he feels that he wants to buy the product on his own, out of his volition, out of his own free will. Though the idea has been planted by you, obviously, no idea is original. He's not going to think of an idea just out of the blue. Which brings me to another very, very powerful dialogue in Inception. It just sounds very good, but it's completely wrong. So let me tell you what the dialogue is.
Okay.
So the dialogue is, here's me planting an idea into your head. Don't think about an elephant. What do you think about? Elephants. Right. But it's not your idea. Because I gave it to you. The subject's mind can always trace the genesis of the idea. The inspiration is impossible to fake. Now that dialogue is completely wrong. The wrongest part there is the subject can always trace the genesis of the idea, which is absolutely absurd. I mean, just imagine the millions of concepts that everybody is acquainted with. You're acquainted with the concept of clothes, of a table, of a chair, of water, of a water bottle. Does your mind remember the first time it saw a water bottle? Or it saw water?
No.
Yeah, in most cases it doesn't, because you knew about all these concepts, or you discovered these concepts when you were an infant. When you were an adult, you became exposed to plenty of concepts. At the same time, we have a lot of data hitting us, and we tend to forget the first time we came across a concept. So just open a newspaper right now and look at any thing that's being discussed. Let's say GST. Let's say a particular brand of a car. But do you remember the first time you saw that brand of car? Do you remember the first time you heard about GST? In what circumstances, and what did you hear about GST? It's almost impossible. Very, very few individuals who are doing it, who are exposed to it. Particular individuals who remember it because they were professionally interested in it, that's a different thing. But most people will not know the genesis, how the concept of GST was planted in the minds. So invisible selling is about planting concepts in people's minds, but then they don't know that concept has been planted.
Okay.
They don't know that they have been induced or seduced into knowing more about the product or buying the product or service. And with your permission, I'd like to show you an example.
Please do.
It's right in my pocket. Okay, so here's my card, and plenty of people have asked me about this card. It's amazing. I never expected to get the kind of response with this card that I've got. Be it junior people, be it chief executives of Fortune 500 companies, HR heads, chief executives of startups, virtually everybody is asking this question, that what's the logic behind the card, and they've been fascinated by the card. But in most cases, 90% of the people who get this card ask me exactly one question, which is exactly 5 words long. What do you think that question is?
What is a mind map?
Absolutely. Now, what's happened with that question, what's a mind map, is you have taken the ownership of the idea.
Okay.
One of the biggest mistakes that people make is they just start telling you about their product, and that pisses people off. So you could have some inexperienced mind map trainer come up to you and say, hi, I'm a mind map trainer. He may have a vision of a mind map. He may have other details of a mind map mentioned here. And they might just go, I'm a mind map trainer. I train on mind mapping. I've trained plenty of Fortune 500 companies. I've trained plenty of schools. And it's a thinking tool which helps you with learning, memory, and creativity. And they just go on selling the product to you when you didn't even want to really get all that download. And that's why plenty of salespeople are not liked. The whole concept of sales or salesmen has a negative connotation to it because people don't know how to sell. Whereas when I'm just offering this to any human being or a prospect, he is coming up with a question, what is a mind map? Now, it's very, very significant. The entire world has changed. The entire situation has changed. I'm not a supplicant anymore. The other person is in fact now a supplicant. I'm not a salesman. He is a salesman. He's trying to sell me the concept of his curiosity. And I'm supposed to satisfy that. So, he's asking me to buy his concept of curiosity. It's totally his idea. He wants to know what a mind map is. When I'm going to talk about mind maps, he's going to listen very intently because it was his idea to know about what a mind map is. So his curiosity has been aroused, now he's got the knowledge. Now if he thinks it makes sense, in most cases it does, he then comes to my seminar or calls me to his company for a seminar. Now if you look at this entire cycle, if somebody were to videotape all his interactions with me, he would probably go to him, he could go to him and say, you know what, this guy gave you a card and he induced you to say what's a mind map. You didn't want to do it. It wasn't something that you did out of your own volition. He induced you, he influenced you, he persuaded you to think of this question and make it your own idea. What do you think that person is going to say? If I tell a person, you didn't really want to know what a mind map is.
I will say, what rubbish.
Yeah, absolutely. So that person is never going to agree that, oh, I'm not an idiot. You can't just give me a piece of paper and then suddenly have an idea being planted in my mind as though it's my idea. You can't make me interested in something just by giving me a piece of paper. I'm not that foolish. I'm not a child. But that is exactly what's happened. Obviously, if it's done skillfully by people who are skillful about it. So, another reason why it's just mind map. I haven't mentioned anything else apart from 2 things in very, very small font. That's my website address and my mobile number. Okay, so most people will know that there's something written there, but their attention, they won't even read that properly because they're fixated on the term mind map, and that's what they're going to remember, that's what we're going to talk about. And that is reflected by another statement by a character in Inception, and this statement is absolutely true. I think it's spoken of by Tom Ford, one of the actors in Inception, saying that it's the simplest version of the idea. You need the simplest version of the idea in order for it to grow naturally in the subject's mind. Okay? And I don't think I can make it simpler than the term mind map. So that's how invisible selling is reflected a lot in Inception, and it's a fantastic movie. It does tell you a lot about the human mind and about invisible selling.
And since being simple is difficult, you should put a thought in this and try and see how you can use this for your business.
Right, absolutely. So thank you for watching, and till you see the next video, don't think about invisible selling.